The month of May has a lot of intense energies associated with it because we are going to be having a lunar eclipse on May 5th, among other important transits that are going to be happening for the month. If you've been watching the news, the financial system has been having some issues again. First Republic Bank was taken over by the FDIC, and we're seeing kind of this continuance or continuation of this issue with the banking system. And I feel like with this lunar eclipse happening on May 5th and some of the other astrological transits, what we're seeing is essentially the breakdown of an older system and the birth of a new system, which is what's represented by all these planets being in the sign of Aries at the moment. For those of you that are new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can get all of the updates regarding when I drop videos. Also, if you're interested in a personal private reading, check down below for details. I'm going to be offering 40% off using code Thor at checkout for the month of May as a pre-summer sale. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the chart I generated for the lunar eclipse that's happening on May 5th. And I'm going to write that for you all. May 5th is the date that we're looking at. Notice that the lunar eclipse is going to be happening the day before King Charles is going to be coronated. I'm going to be doing another chart for Coronation Day, which will be very similar to this one, but we'll really break down because we do have an approximate time to when King Charles is going to be coronated as well. Okay, so when we're looking at a lunar eclipse, what we're really doing is we're focusing on where the moon is. Okay, because if you remember during a lunar eclipse, the shadow passes over the moon because basically what happens is the earth is right here and then the sun's light is essentially blocked by the earth, and that's why we see the shadow pass over the moon, and that shadow is what is usually known as Rahu. Okay, but this was in particular a south node lunar eclipse, okay, with K2 being very much involved in this lunar eclipse. Now, as far as the nakshatra that the eclipse happened in, it's in the nakshatra known as Visakha. And to give you a little idea of what Visakha is about shock transformation. For example, the visual that represents Visakha is lightning. Okay, so there's this idea of something breaking apart so that something can split and then grow. So that's what's being represented here. And we're already seeing literally a week before this eclipse, we're seeing this issues with the banking system, okay, the financial system. And there's a lot of problems that are happening worldwide with food insecurity and so forth. So we're seeing more of this fracturing or this splitting of what Visakha represents. That's going to be flavoring the entire month of May. I also want to point out that Libra is the seventh house of the natural zodiac, with Aries being the first house. Now, the seventh house has to do with agreements that we make with people. So when I see K2 there, and this is a south node lunar eclipse, there's this idea of the archetypal energies being this loss of agreement. Okay, this loss of agreement of maybe how societies run. There's a lot of ramifications with this. Remember, the solar eclipse happened in the sign of Aries, which is all about determination, individualism, and kind of my way or the highway type of thinking. So this really does indicate this idea of a loss of agreement with people and going into more of this warlike energy with what the solar eclipse that happened on April 21st more represented. Okay. And that was a north node eclipse. So that's where the energy is really focused. Now, when we're talking about eclipses, I want you all to be aware of the eclipses are really influencing both sides of the eclipse axis. So if there's any energy that happens on this side of the equation, it's going to be affecting this side of the equation as well. Okay. So the lunar and solar eclipses are really affecting both houses. Okay. The first house and the seventh house of the natural zodiac. Something to be aware of is when I generated this chart using the birth time of the actual eclipse, you'll notice that the birth chart it generated, because you can make a birth chart on any event, is you'll notice that the eclipses are happening in the second and eighth houses of, and I don't think you can see it there, the second and eighth houses of the lunar eclipse chart that I generated. And that's all about financial energies. Whenever we're talking about the second house has to do with assets, saved assets, storage. And the eighth house has to do with other people's money, taxes, investor money. So if you take a look at this eclipse axis, the chart generated for the lunar eclipse is the second house and the eighth house. Okay. So I do feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more economic troubles for the month of May. I feel like we're going to continue to get more stories in the news indicating this loss of agreement. Okay. Now, this is the natural seventh house, but it's the second house for this specific chart. So I feel like the energy we're getting here is this loss of agreement, this loss of even asset prices could be being affected by this. Okay. With the second house being involved. Now, I want to give you some other key dates where we could see some important events take place. So May 5th, obviously, because that's the day of the lunar eclipse. So write that down on your calendar. The other day is going to be May 14th, because that's when Mercury is going to finally go direct. Okay. And then the other date I want to give you, which is going to be another crucial date, is going to be May 27th. Okay. So May 27th, Jupiter and Rahu are going to be exactly conjunct. Okay, so there's going to be some real interesting, powerful energies around that time. So I feel like the end of May and the first week of June are going to be very intense energies. And I do see some very important events happening with all these transits that are taking place. Like I said, I feel like we're going to see more of this financial system news happening. And I feel like it's going to be more negative information. But remember what Aries represents, where Jupiter is, where Rahu is. It represents a new birth. And transiting Saturn is in Aquarius, the natural 11th house. So there's this idea of this new economic system because the old economic system isn't working for everybody. Now, it is working for a few people, but it's not working for everybody. So what Saturn is going to be doing through all these different transits is Saturn in the 11th house is trying to make things more fair for everybody. So I do feel like out of this situation, these really interesting transits, we're going to get a better world that comes out of this, even though in the short term, it may look negative on the surface. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Please let me know what kind of other videos you would like me to do. I'm going to be doing King Charles Coronation Day for the next video. So until the next video, take care.